Unholy Case Files, The Hollow Pine Sleepers. Documentary narration. In 1923, the Hollow Pines Sanatorium opened in the deep woods of East Feliciana Parish. They planted rows of imported pines to purify the air, tall spires arranged in a spiral to funnel the wind and clear the lungs. Children sent here to recover from tuberculosis spent their days on shaded porches, breathing pine resin and camphor, while nurses wrote notes in thin gray ink. But the trees kept more than wind. Children missing in Hollow Pine Woods. Sanitarium closed after funding scandal. A man's voice, older, cracked like bark. They didn't close it because the money ran out. They closed it because the woods started keeping what was theirs. And they still do. Modern interviews follow. Worried parent, my son's tent was zipped from the inside. His phone still on the charger. His sneakers by the door. He's just gone. Park ranger, every time we run a sweep, we find the same thing. Tents neat as dolls' houses. It's like they dissolved. Folklorist, the locals call them the sleepers. Old story. The pines were grown as centuries. Children hid secrets in their hollows, and the trees learned to listen. If they whisper your name, you don't camp there. Tonight, another investigator will arrive. She's been called before. She knew she was listening. My name is Trinity Holmes. I've been reading the case files for 2 hours, but it feels like much longer. They're neat PDF scans, nothing sensational. Missing camper reports, zipped up tents, no signs of struggle. It's the kind of impossible that sits quietly on the page, waiting for someone to touch it. My office smells of printer ink and wet wool. A pine needle, just one, lies on the windowsill, though I keep the window closed. Recorder clicks on. Case file preliminary notes. Hollow Pines Campground. Multiple disappearances. 0 trace. Heading out tomorrow at first light to verify site. My phone buzzes. Unknown number. No avatar, just text. The Hollow Pines are awake. Do you remember the map? I blink. The words sit there, calm and inevitable. I type back. Who is this? No answer. Instead, an image appears, a digital map. Low contrast, green and cream, overlaid with a spiderweb of red trails. Some end in small dots, like wells or eyes. No legend, no title. I open Google Maps on my laptop for comparison. The campground's public trails are a neat figure 8 around a lake. This image shows something different. Paths that curve inward, a spiral, then vanish in an unmarked grove. The next text arrives before I finish scrolling. Stay on the drawn path. Do not sleep beneath the trees. A thin tremor works its way down my arms. I look at the pine needle on the sill again. It's wet now, as if it's just fallen. Recorder, quieter. Anonymous text received. Map of non-public trails. Warnings about staying on path and avoiding sleeping under the trees. Feels orchestrated. My gaze lingers on the map. Each path is numbered, but not named. In the center of the spiral, a cluster of small marks, like hollows or doorways. If I lean close, I swear the screen smells faintly of camphor and sap. I pinch to zoom. The pixels blur. A new line appears. Faint gray lines fading in like a watermark. We kept their secrets. I sit back. My office feels larger and emptier, as though some of it has slid away to make room for this map. The phone buzzes once more. Tomorrow, dusk. Follow the map. The Hollow Pines will guide you. I turn off the recorder and shut the laptop. The pine needle on the sill trembles in a breeze I can't feel. The sound of my clock ticking becomes, just for a moment, the hush of wind through trees, whispering a name that might be mine. Arrival at the campground. The road to Hollow Pines narrows until it becomes a wet ribbon draped between walls of trees. Pine trunks march in lockstep, their needles trembling in the dusk, like the fur of something waiting. Signs for the campground appear nailed to the trees, weathered wood and green paint flaking off. Hollow Pines Campground, established 1954. Each sign has a different tilt, as if the forest had been shrugging them into new positions over the years. My headlights catch patches of fog that seem to rise from the asphalt itself. The smell of sap is everywhere, thick and sweet. 1,000 spindly fingers waving in the wind. Recorder on. Approaching Hollow Pines Campground, dusk, pine-lined roads. Location matches map sent by anonymous source. I keep my eyes on the center line. The woods on either side are deeper than they should be. More layers than my headlights can burn through. For a moment, I imagine the pines leaning inward after I pass, closing ranks behind me. I narrate softly out of habit. Originally a tuberculosis sanitarium built in the 1920s. The pines imported to purify the air and arranged in intentional spirals. Converted to a campground in 1954. Missing persons reports spanning decades. A wooden gatehouse looms ahead, windows dark. A ranger truck parked at an angle like it's ready to leave. A man steps out of the shadow between two posts. Khaki uniform, badge glinting. He raises a hand. "Evening," he says. "You the investigator?" "That's me," I answer. "Trinity Holmes. Thanks for meeting me." He glances at the pines behind him, like someone checking a crowd for a face. "Don't stay past midnight," he says. "I'm serious." Noted. "I can't stop you from walking the trails, but don't pitch a tent. Don't even nap in your car under those trees." "Why?" He hesitates. "We lose people who do." Then he hands me a folded map, a standard issue trail sheet, and walks back to his truck. He doesn't start the engine until I drive past. Recorder quieter. Local ranger warns me not to camp overnight, even in my car. Urgent tone. The campground itself opens in a clearing of crushed pine needles. Dozens of picnic tables and fire rings sit waiting for visitors who never came. A pale mist hangs at ankle height, swirling like cigarette smoke in a barroom. I park near the main trailhead and step out. The first thing I see, tents, 6 of them, all zipped. Bright nylon in cheerful colors, but slumped under the weight of dew. Phones sit on camp chairs, cords trailing like veins. A paperback novel lies face down in the dirt, pagers swollen with damp. A half-empty bag of chips leans against a cooler, stiff with cold. No footprints, no signs of departure. It looks like a diorama of camping assembled by a child who didn't know how people moved. I unzip the first tent, just enough to look inside. Sleeping bag rolled tight. Flashlight still on. Its beam weakly illuminating nothing. The zipper teeth close under my fingers with a faint metallic sigh. Another tent contains a journal lying open. I glance at the last entry. "Woke at 3:12 a.m. to wind saying my name." I close it carefully, feeling the ink still tacky from dew. The pines at the edge of the clearing loom tall and close, their trunks marked with faint spirals of lichen, like fingerprints. I feel them noticing me. I set up a small base camp on a wooden table under the one security light still working. Not a tent, just a folding chair, my field bag, my thermos, and the recorder. I'll sleep in my car if I have to. Recorder clicks on. Campground survey. Multiple tents belonging to missing campers still intact. Personal belongings untouched. Evidence of hasty departure or anomalous removal. Base camp established as picnic table. Will not camp beneath trees. Documentary. Testimonies. I was 9 when they sent me here. We weren't allowed to talk after lights out, so we used the trees. They were hollow. You'd roll your note like a secret and tuck it in, and next day you'd find an answer from another child. Sometimes not from a child at all.
The trees at Hollow Pines were not native. They were planted in a spiral pattern derived from sacred geometry, the golden ratio and all that. This was before zoning laws. Some say it was just landscaping. Others say it was a way of channeling something, a current of air or something less explainable.
I walk the perimeter once before dark falls, phone out to record GPS coordinates. My compass needle swings erratically, as if it's sniffing for true north but can't quite decide. The ranger's truck has gone. The clearing feels wider without him, the pines taller. A gust stirs the hollow trunks and I hear it. The faintest sound, like a chorus of children humming a lullaby in reverse. For a heartbeat, it's my name. Then it's gone. The last sunlight dies beside the tree line, leaving the campground washed in gray. My phone buzzes, a new text from the same number as before.
They are waiting in the hollows. Do you remember where to start?
I look at the tents, zipped mouths of bright fabric, mute witnesses to something that does not leave footprints. Recorder clicks on. Nightfall at Hollow Pines Campground. Received new message from unidentified sender. Text references hollows and a starting point. I seal the recorder and set it on the table beside my thermos. In the distance, the pines creak like slow pendulums. Each sound feels deliberate, as if the forest were settling into a pattern for the night, waiting for me to read it. I head back to my car, lock the doors, and leave the key in the ignition. The digital map glows on my phone, lines looping like veins. In the corner of the screen, a new symbol flickers. A hollow circle with a dot in the center. It wasn't there before. For a moment, I imagine a child's hand sliding a note into a tree trunk, somewhere in the dark. A note addressed to me, and the trees, being courteous archivists, delivering it in their own time. I close my eyes and listen. The wind through the pines sounds like paper tearing very slowly, or like my name being whispered by someone who doesn't want me to hear, but can't help saying it anyway. The Hollow Pines. The digital map glows in my palm like a lantern made of code. Lines loop and intersect, forming a spiral where no official trail should be. Each step I take crunches over pine needles, so thick they feel like carpet. My flashlight throws long lances of light into the undergrowth. Each lance seems to bend as if the pines are learning to avoid it. Recorder on. Following anonymous coordinates from digital map, heading toward northern edge of campground, 9:47. The campground behind me is still and mute, its tents zipped like mouths. Ahead, the trees thicken. The air smells of camphor and something darker. Iron in an old cut, or the scent of a wet penny held too long between the teeth. I pass an old sign, half swallowed by bark.
Sanatorium property line.
The letters are ghosted, green moss crawling over them. The trail ends, but the digital map shows a thin silver line continuing. I step off the path. The ground slopes gently until I'm in a bowl of forest. Pine trees rise around me like cathedral columns, their tops vanishing into black. They're thicker than any I've seen here, each trunk easily 4 feet across, bark corrugated like ancient paper. And then I see the hollows. At child height, each trunk has a cavity about the size of a small mail slot. Some are empty, their interiors dark as open mouths. Others are packed with things: rolled paper, scraps of cloth, bird bones arranged like runes, even the milky glint of what might be a tooth. It's as if every child who passed here left a fragment of themselves for the trees to catalog. I lean closer to the first hollow. My flashlight beam catches something at the back, a crayon drawing of a house, faded to ghosts of blue and red. Next to it, a wad of tissue paper stiff with age, with writing too faint to read. I breathe in, and the pine breathes back. Trinity! Just a whisper. Could be wind. Could be my name folded into needles. Then a string of numbers. 3, 12, 9. A children's rhyme I can't place. Muttering backward. Recorder. Confirmed hollows at child height. Objects within include papers, bones, possible teeth. Auditory phenomenon. Whispers resembling my name and numerals. I move to another tree. Its hollow holds a bird skull with a note curled through the eye socket. My flashlight picks up faint etchings on the bark around the slot. Handprints. Dozens. Overlapping. Small as a child's. Some larger, as if grown but still pressed to the same place. The impression of applause frozen mid-clap. My phone buzzes. Not the number from before, a new one. The sender name is simply The Pines. We keep their secrets. We keep yours too. A moment later, stay on the drawn path. Do not sleep beneath the trees. And then a pin drops on the digital map. Coordinates deeper in the woods, in a place marked only by a cluster of concentric rings. I type back without thinking, "What are you?" But the message sits unsendable. The app freezes and closes. Another buzz, another line. Follow the map. Whisper what you want to know. We will answer. I glance at the hollows. No, I whisper. Not yet. The trees respond anyway. 1,000 needles trembling in unison, repeating a string of numbers. A birth date that is mine, but off by 1 digit. Recorder. Receiving text from entity, identifying as the Hollow Pines. Messages reference secrets, warnings to remain on path, and coordinates for further exploration. Will comply with safety instructions. I keep walking. The hollows line the path like mailboxes on a rural route, each one a different voice in a choir of wood. Some breathe cool air against my skin. Some exhale warmth that smells like old hospital wards. The scent of camphor thickens, undercut by iron. Another hollow shows a child's shoe cut cleanly in half, a coin pressed into the sole. Another holds a bundle of brittle photographs showing nothing but tree trunks. In one photograph, I think I see myself, standing in the same grove, my face blurred. I step back. Above, faint marks in the bark run up toward the branches, a lattice of etchings like an unreadable language. Between the lines, tiny handprints climb, fading higher until the bark swallows them. My phone buzzes again. Stay on the drawn path. The message repeats itself, scrolling down my screen, each line smaller than the last, until it becomes a thin, green thread. I raise my recorder. Documentary note. The grove of hollow pines appear to function as a living archive. Objects correspond to missing children and earlier patients. Entity communicates via text as the Hollow Pines. I whisper to one hollow, "What happened to them?" and hear back only a sigh. Then a voice, like a leaf tearing, "Not lost, not found." The digital map flickers. A new path appears, faint as spider silk, curling deeper into the grove. At the center, a small circle marked, "You are here," though I never entered it. A gust lifts the scent of camphor until it stings my eyes. When I blink, the hollows look wider, as if leaning toward me. The handprints seem fresh, glistening. My name flickers through the branches again, softer now. Like a lullaby sung at a door you aren't supposed to open. Another buzz. We will guide you. Do not linger. I step back from the tree. The ground here is soft and hummocky, as if something has burrowed under the roots. Needles crunch in a rhythm that isn't mine. Trinity Holmes, I say into the recorder, my own name to anchor me. Concluding initial survey of Hollow Pines Grove. Entity responsive. Communication ongoing. Will retreat to base camp to review data before following coordinates. I look at the hollows one last time. In the nearest slot, where a moment ago there was only darkness, a scrap of paper has appeared, folded into a shape like a small boat. My name is scrawled on the sail. I don't touch it. Instead, I turn back toward the campground, keeping my steps on the pale path the digital map shows me, a ribbon of safety drawn through the spiral. Behind me, the pines whisper like a patient exhaling. As I reach the edge of the grove, my phone buzzes a final time. Good. The screen dims. The hollows recede. The scent of camphor thins to ordinary pine. But I know it's waiting. The trail they showed me is still there on the screen, the concentric rings glowing faintly like an eye closed in sleep, about to open again. Mapping the unmapped. The digital map glows like a secret superimposed on reality. I watch the faint thread of its new path bleed across my screen, then lift my eyes to the trees, nothing but darkness and pine. Yet when I walked, the ground under my boots feels already printed with the shape of the path, as if the forest has memorized it before I've set foot there. Recorder. Following non-public coordinates provided by the Hollow Pines. Beginning Deep Woods survey at 10:28 p.m. Proceeding alone. I step off the campground's edge, past the last fire ring, and into the uncharted. The air is different here, less of pine sap and more of something metallic, like the scent of an old penny pressed between the pages of a book. The trail winds tighter than the GPS suggests. Trees huddle closer, their trunks forming half circles, then straightening. When I glance back, the clearing is gone, swallowed behind a curtain of needles. Within 5 minutes, I pass a fallen log, carved with initials. I notice them automatically. AH plus DW, 1946, and move on. 2 minutes later, I pass the same log again, but the carving reads MC plus LS, 2018. My skin crawls. Recorder. Trail looping. Recurrent log with shifting carvings. Possible time anomaly or forest mimicry. Staying on drawn path regardless. The forest floor softens. Pine needles deepening into a mat. Sound drops away. Each footstep lands as if cushioned by thick felt. In the quiet, I hear something beneath the surface, a faint tide of whispering breaths. I follow the coordinates into a clearing where stones rise out of the ground like broken teeth. The flashlight beam sweeps over them and halts, a rectangle of stone foundations. Walls no higher than my knee, half buried under trees. Recorder. Ruined stone foundation located. Matches footprint of children's ward from 1920s sanitarium. Pine roots claw through the stones, twisting into knotted shapes like ribs. Rusted bed frames protrude at angles from the dirt, their coils slick with sap. Someone, or something, has strung a thin thread of cloth between two of the frames, like a child's forgotten fort. I kneel at the foundation's edge. The digital map pulses, showing a hollow at its center. There, in the crook of a massive root, a dark opening gapes, barely wide enough for an arm. Inside, something glints. I slide my hand in and withdraw a small wooden box, no bigger than a cigar box. Its corners chewed by time. The lid is held tight by an elastic gone brittle. When I lift it, the box gives off the dry, papery scent of archives. Inside are index cards, stained but legible, handwritten case notes, patient initials, dates of admission, discharge statuses, The names are redacted with heavy pencil, but the initials leap out at me. KM, DR, JP, and with the start I realize that they are the initials from the missing camper reports. Recorder. Recovered index cards. Case notes of TB patients with redacted names. Initials correspond to missing campers. Suggests cross-temporal record-keeping or symbolic connection. Static bursts from my recorder mid-sentence. The tape hiss rising to a low drone. Then words in reverse spill through the speakers. A child's voice saying something I can't quite unpick, except for the last 3 syllables. My name. My phone screen flickers. The GPS view collapses into a series of flashing images, tents crumpling inward as though crushed by invisible hands. Zippers sealing themselves, empty sleeping bags tightening like cocoons. The angle is from above the trees, from nowhere a camera should be. I shut my eyes. The images fade. The sound remains. Breathing. Dozens of children breathing in unison. The cadence of an old infirmary ward at night. Another buzz. Text message. Return to the hollow you first found. We will guide you out. I hesitate, index cards trembling in my hands. The forest around me has shifted again. The stones now look like vertebra, the roots like blackened lungs. Recorder. Warnings from the hollow pines. Growing urgent. Auditory phenomenon. Synchronized breathing. Visual disturbances on phone. Commencing retreat. I tuck the box back into the hollows, but keep one card, a blank one, or nearly blank, except for a smear of faded graphite. It's warm as a living thing. The coordinates on my phone reverse themselves, drawing a dotted line back toward the campground. I stand, light swaying across the ruin. When I take a step, the breathing stops, not fades, stops. The forest holds its inhale, then a voice close to my ear, so soft it could be the flutter of a moth. Go. I go. The path bends back on itself, but the digital map steadies me. A pale thread through a labyrinth. My flashlight beam catches the log again, this time carved only with my initials. I don't pause. A cold mist rises, knee-high, smelling of camphor and iron. My phone buzzes with a stream of texts now, each line more urgent than the last. Hurry. Do not stop. Keep eyes forward. Branches scrape at my coat. Pine cones crack underfoot like small bones. The static on my recorder surges again, the reversed voice chanting a string of numbers I recognize as coordinates. Coordinates leading out. I break into a half run, scanning for the first hollow tree I encountered in the grove. The ground pitches and rights itself as if the woods are adjusting to my speed. Shadows of hospital beds flicker between the trunks, pale rails rising and falling like ghosts of waves. Another text. At the hollow now. Place your hand on the bark. I obey. The first tree's hollow feels cooler than the night air, sap sticky and rough. My fingers graze something like paper, but it dissolves at my touch. Help me out, I whisper, feeling foolish but also desperate. The GPS on my phone whirs once, then locks. A new trail lights up in white, leading straight toward the edge of the campground. I start walking, the breathing now behind me, like a tide pulling out. The forest grows thinner with each step. My recorder hisses and then falls silent. Ahead, through the trunks, the faint glow of the ranger's gatehouse flickers like a candle stub. I can smell smoke from a campfire that isn't there. One last text arrives as I break out into the open. You listened. We will keep your secrets, too. I stop, chest heaving. Behind me, the trees stand still, their hollows dark. The breathing is gone. My phone goes blank, except for the normal map of public trails. Recorder. Exited unmapped area. Index cards recovered. Entity terminated guidance upon exit, preparing for further analysis. I look down at my palm. A smear of graphite from the blank card stains my skin, the faint outline of a child's hand inside mine. The vanishing. As night deepens, the campground becomes a diorama of itself. Every tent a sealed envelope, every tree an address. I park my car facing the grove, dash-mounted camera rolling, its red light a single pinprint of witness. The digital map on my phone lies dark on the passenger seat. The Hollow Pines have stopped texting. Recorder. Observation stakeout. Hollow Pines campground. Car parked at edge of grove. Camera fixed on tents. Midnight approaching. The moon is a sickle high above, but its lights seem to stop at the tree line, as if the pines are swallowing it whole. Crickets have fallen silent. Even the breeze has gone still, as though the night itself is waiting for a cue. I watch the tents. Their nylon walls shift slightly, as if someone inside has turned over. My hand hovers above the door handle, thumb worrying the texture of the key fob. Then, at 11:59, a tremor passes through the grove. Not wind, more like the inhalation of a crowd holding its breath. The tents still. The air turns metallic with camphor and iron. At midnight exactly, they emerge. First one, then another, then all at once. Ghostly figures pushing through the tent fabric as if it were water. They're pale as phosphorescent, flickering like bad film. The shapes of the missing campers moving with the distracted grace of sleepwalkers. Each one leaves the tent zipped behind them, a magician's trick done in silence. My camera catches only streaks of light. My eyes see more. They drift toward the tree line in single file, shoulders slack, heads tilted as if listening to something only they can hear. Recorder. Witnessing apparitions resembling missing campers, exiting tents while tents remain zipped, moving toward pines, documenting. At the grove's edge, the trees lean forward, hollows glowing faintly. Pale hands slip out of the wood, too thin, too many knuckles, beckoning. The whispering rises. Children's rhymes run backward, a hiss of breath shaped into words. Come back, come back, come back. My phone buzzes once in the cup holder. A text sent without sender ID. Stay in the car. But the figures keep moving, and something in me, the part that catalogs, that chases, won't allow me to simply watch. I grab my recorder, step out of the car, and cross the gravel. The night closes over me like a lid. Exiting vehicle to follow apparitions. Risk acknowledged. Proceeding on foot. The closer I get, the more the grove rearranges itself. Pines bend inward, trunks aligning like door frames. A corridor opens where none existed, pine needles woven tight underfoot like a carpet. The figures ahead pass through it one by one, dissolving into the darkness. The air here is cold enough to sting. My breath clouds and drifts upward instead of out. Stay on the path, I mutter, remembering the warnings. Stay on the drawn path. Inside the corridor, the trees creak like hinges. The hollows glow dimly, a milky green light seeping from them. One hand brushes my sleeve, a child's hand but colder than snow, smelling faintly of Vicks and old bandages. Trinity, it whispers, we wrote to you. I keep moving, recorder pressed to my lips. The corridor opens into a small clearing I've never seen on any map. The ground is bare dirt, patterned with pine needles in a spiral. At the center stands a figure holding a lantern made of ribs. It's child size, but the posture is ancient. Head bowed, shoulders narrow, hair falling forward to hide the face. The lantern burns with no flame, only a slow green pulse like a heartbeat. The ribs that make up its frame gleam as if slick with resin. I stopped. Every instinct says not to cross the spiral. My phone buzzes. A new message from the Hollow Pines. One can return. One can remain. Choose. Another text immediately after. Step forward. Take their place. Send one back. I glance around. The ghostly campers have formed a loose ring at the clearing's edge, eyes unfocused, feet hovering a few inches off the ground, as if suspended on invisible wires. Their mouths open and close, mouthing words without sound. Recorder. Entity in clearing. Child-sized figure with lantern constructed of ribs. Apparitions circling. Phone messages indicate an exchange. One can return if I remain. Suspect this is a crossing point between states. The rib lantern swings slowly. The green pulse spilling over the campers' faces. Their forms solidify for a moment. Freckles, hair color, the exact sneakers I'd seen in their tents, then blur again into chalk outlines. I take a half step forward. The pine needles soft and wet under my boots. The lantern's glow intensifies, catching on the waxy resin of the trees. I feel the pull, an invitation, but also a draft, like standing at the edge of a great lung, inhaling. My phone buzzes once more. Midnight window closing. Step now or leave. I imagine stepping into the spiral, the way the missing campers must have. The case from the ash wing, the index cards from the children's ward. Each choice I've made not to open, not to name. My entire investigation career has been about breaching thresholds, but this is a threshold that breaching would make permanent. Recorder. Hypothesis. Entering this spiral constitutes exchange. Investigator remains. One camper returns. Ethical line not to be crossed at this time. Rib lantern tilts, as if the child figure is looking up at me. For a moment I see a face. Not young, not old. Eyes like hollow rings of pine sap. Its lips move. Choose. The camper's mouths echo the same word, silent but visible. Choose. I whisper to the grove. I'm sorry. My phone buzzes. Then go. Do not look back. The rib lantern dims. The figures at the clearing's edge ripple, then dissolve like chalk washed off a slate. The corridor behind me reforms, a pale ribbon through the pines leading back toward the campground. I back away, keeping my eyes on the ground, on the pale path. The child figure lowers the lantern. Its glow contracts to a pinprick, then nothing. The whispering dies. The hands retreat into the hollows. The pine trunks straighten. Door frames no more. Recorder. Chose not to enter the spiral. Apparitions dissipated. Corridor reestablished. Exiting grove immediately. When I break from the trees, the campground looks the same, but different, as if the tents have aged a decade in an hour. The camera light on my dash blinks steadily. Still recording. My car windows are beaded with a fine frost, though the night is warm. On my phone, the last text from the Hollow Pines lingers for a moment longer. We keep your secret, too. Then it vanishes. I sit in the driver's seat, recorder still running, and watch the tents. All zipped, all silent. The grove behind them is just trees again, dark and inscrutable. My pulse beats in my throat like a second lantern. The artifact. The grove closes behind me like a door I refuse to enter. My pulse still races from the rib lantern and the silent word, choose. I leave the car and veer off toward the ruins of the old children's ward, following the faint path I traced earlier. The Hollow Pines' last coordinates flicker on my screen, a breadcrumb trail curving back to the stone foundation. Recorder. Declined exchange in Grove. Circling to foundation of children's ward. Pursuing secondary lead indicated by earlier coordinates. The pine trunks around the ruins lean inward like spectators at an operating theater. Roots claw through the broken stones as if the earth has pulled the building back into itself. But the digital map holds steady, a single white dot blinking at the far wall. I crouch by the wall, hands probing the gaps between stones. The flashlight beam dances over a rusted bed frame, collapsed into the dirt, then stops on a darker seam, a hollow, low to the ground, half hidden under a tangle of roots. Something glints inside, faint and metallic. I reach in and my fingers close on a cold corner, edges chewed but firm. With a tug, I free a tin box wrapped in layers of wax paper. The paper is mottled with brown stains like old leaves, stamped into the tin's lid, barely legible under grime. The sanatorium's insignia, a pine cone nested inside. A catechus. Recorder. Recovered sealed tin box, bearing sanatorium insignia. Approximate size of patient file container. Condition fair. The wax paper flakes as I peel it back. Underneath, the tin rattles faintly, not like something loose, but like something shifting in its sleep. I slip my nails under the clasp. It opens with a sigh that smells of antiseptic and resin. Inside is a single object, a register sealed in a translucent blocks of resin, yellowed and ridged like amber. Through the cloudy surface, I can see lines of handwriting, careful and slanting, patient names redacted with dark slashes, only initials visible. Admission dates from the 1920s, discharge dates blank, the words discharged, not returned. Repeat down the page. Recorder. Inside box. Patient register sealed in resin. Lists all children discharged but unaccounted for. Names redacted but initials correspond to missing campers. My phone buzzes bright in the dark. Return the list to the place where it began. Do not open. Do not name them. The resin block sits in my hands like a frozen lung. Its surface is cool, but a faint pulse moves inside. A rhythm slower than a heartbeat, like the breath of a sleeping animal. When I tilt it, the initials seem to shift. Then I see it near the bottom, under a smear of amber clouding, my own name. Not initials, full name. Trinity Holmes, etched faintly as though in pencil. Date, blank. My throat tightens. I was never a patient here. My parents weren't even born when the sanatorium closed. Yet the letters are there, the TNH curling in a hand I almost recognize. My own. I trace it through the resin, my fingertip following the groove. The pulse inside the block seems to quicken. Recorder. Register contains investigator's own name near bottom. Impossible. Possibly projection or hallucination, induced by environment. Heart rate elevated. Another buzz from my phone. If opened, you remain. The words feel heavier than any warning I've ever received. I left the resin block toward my flashlight. Its interior catches the light like a trapped insect wing, scattering green and gold across the ruined stones. For a moment, I picture myself heating it, breaking it, freeing the papers within, the children's names spilling into the air like moths, like smoke. I lower it quickly. No, I whisper, though no one's asked the question aloud. No, I won't. The pine roots groan, a slow creak underfoot. My phone buzzes again, softer now, as if exhaling. Thank you. The resin's pulse calms under my hands. A steady, slow beat, then less, then almost still. The initials blur back into redacted smears. My own name fades as if erased by a cautious hand. Recorder. Artifact retrieved intact. Will comply with entity's request to return register unopened. Concluding search of foundation. I wrap the resin block back in the wax paper and slide it into the tin. The box is heavier now, but not unpleasantly slow. Like a responsibility given form, I tuck it into my field bag and zip it shut. Standing, I glance back at the ruined ward. The pines around it are utterly still, branches unmoving, though the night breeze has returned. In the hollows, faint pinpricks of green light blink open, like eyes watching to see if I'll keep my promise. I shoulder my bag and step back onto the pale line of the digital map, letting it guide me toward the campground. Behind me, the roots shift, sealing the niche, closing the stone seam until only moss remains. As I leave the ruins, my phone glows with one last line of text. Return. Window closing. The resin block vibrates once inside my bag. A heartbeat confirming its presence, then stills. I whisper into the recorder. In transit to base camp. Carrying register. No intent to open. The forest exhales. The whispering of the trees softening to the normal sigh of needles in wind. But under it I catch one last echo. A child's voice, very faint, very close to my ear. We wrote you too. I walk faster, not looking back. Escape from the spiral. The tin box rides heavy in my pack, warm against my spine as though it's breathing. The grove behind me exhales once, and the trail ahead convulses. What was a faint footpath becomes a slick vein of pine needles curving into the dark. Recorder. Artifact secured. Attempting exit. Environment destabilizing. The woods fold inward like paper being crumbled. Trunks tilt toward one another, branches weaving a ceiling overhead. The pine scent sharpens to something chemical, antiseptic labored over resin, like hospital disinfectant poured onto a bonfire. Each breath tastes of scorched needles. The ground shifts. The thin, pale path that led me in now kinks, doubling back. Splitting into mirror copies, I take a step, and the trees shudder. Pine cones burst underfoot with tiny pops, releasing gusts of camphor. My phone buzzes, screen flaring. A message from the Hollow Pines. Turn right at the third tree. Do not look back. Breathe once for each missing child. I obey, counting aloud under my breath. 1, 2, 3. My breath becomes the only sound. Even the recorder's hiss has flattened into a single line of static. Behind me, the shadows flicker. Hospital beds roll silently between the trunks. Frames made of roots and rails of bark. Shapes lie under the sheets. Faces turn to the wall. For a heartbeat, I think I hear the soft cough of children. But it's only the pine needles shivering like teeth. Recorder. Visual anomaly. Hospital beds between trees. Shadows of patients under sheets. Static intensifying. Continuing exit route. The third tree leans slightly, its hollow glowing faint green. I turn right as instructed. The path contracts. Pine roots knitting tight behind me with a wet sigh. Another buzz. Do not look back. I stare straight ahead. The forest geometry slides sideways. 2 steps forward and I'm walking along the inside wall of a hallway that shouldn't exist. Plaster peeling to reveal bark beneath. The smell of antiseptic surges until my eyes sting. I force my lungs to slow. Breathe once for each missing child, the text had said. I start counting again. Slow breaths measured. 1 for KM. 1 for DR. 1 for JP. each initial from the index cards a bead on a rosary of air. The counting steadies me. The pine trees groan. A sound like a ship's hull under strain rises from all directions. For a moment, the canopy overhead is a hospital ceiling, white tile squares flickering with fluorescent hum. Then it's needles again, black against pre-dawn sky. My phone buzzes. Final text. Straight. Dawn waiting. I push forward. The path is barely wide enough for my boots, lined with handprints impressed into the earth like fossils, each print smaller than the last, a regression toward infancy. Static on the recorder flares, then reverses. Spooling out a voice like wind through reeds, it murmurs, almost. A thin light appears ahead, weak and coppery, the color of new blood. The path widens. The scent of pine tilts toward ordinary earth. Almost, I echo. One last corridor of trees. Then the world flexes. The ground buckles once, like a lung coughing. And then I'm out. I burst onto the access road just as the sun lifts its first blade over the horizon. The air outside the grove feels thin and washed, like a room just opened after years of disuse. My boots hit gravel. My legs buckle with relief. Behind me, the forest stands perfectly ordinary. Pines tall and indifferent, their hollows dark as knotholes. No spirals, no corridors, no hospital beds. Only the faint scent of antiseptic clinging to my coat. Recorder. Exited anomalous area at dawn. Forest reverted to baseline appearance. Artifact intact. I walk to my car parked at the edge of the campground. Its windows are frosted with pine needles. Not rain, not dew. Just a layer of green filigree, like someone had sifted the trees onto it. The hood is bone dry, though the air smells of after rain. Inside, my dash-mounted camera still blinks red. Timestamp 6:01. 6 hours of footage recorded, though my watch says only 3 have passed. I ease the tin box onto the passenger seat. The warmth has faded, replaced by a slow, neutral weight, like a dormant animal. Recorder. Artifact recovered and removed. Phenomena ceased. Dawn present. Preparing for debrief. I look once more at the forest. Nothing moves. No hollows glow. A woodpecker drums somewhere, absurdly normal. On my phone, one last text appears from the Hollow Pines. Thank you. We will sleep now. I shut off the recorder. My hands smell faintly of resin and iron. My breath still counts itself without me. 1, 2, 3. An echo of names I'll never say. Then I start the engine, pine needles sliding off the windshield like green snow, and drive away from Hollow Pines before the trees can change their mind. Aftermath and reflection. Back at my office, the city looks normal. Pigeons, a garbage truck reversing, but my hands still smell of camphor and iron. The tin box sits on the passenger seat like a second shadow all the way back. I carry it up the stairs, cradled in my arms, keeping it close to my body, as if it could slip away if not held firmly. Inside my office, it feels heavier still, as though the walls here aren't quite strong enough to contain it. Recorder. Artifact secured at base. Preparing for containment. Will not open per directive from entity known as the Hollow Pines. I clear a space in the locked evidence cabinet, sliding aside a stack of older case files. The tin box goes in, then the key turns twice. Even locked away, the air in the cabinet smells faintly of hospital corridors after rain. On my desk, I line up my equipment. Recorder, camera cards, notes. The footage from the car is mostly static, glitching in and out, but there are slivers. Frames of pale figures slipping from zipped tents, a pulse of green light between the pines. Enough to hint, but not enough to prove. The audio captures something stranger, a sound like 100 children breathing in unison, rising and falling like a tide. When I finish copying the files, I notice it, a single pine needle lying across my keyboard. I didn't bring it in. It's wet, as if it's just fallen from a tree that isn't there. Recorder. Residual phenomenon. Pine needle on desk. Unknown origin. My phone buzzes. A new message from the Hollow Pines. Rest now. We will sleep until called. I stare at the words until they fade from the screen. No signature, no coordinates, just a closing of the file, as if even the trees understand paperwork. I lean back in my chair. The locked cabinet hums faintly behind me, or maybe that's just my ears adjusting to silence. The city noises below seem very far away. I think of the register sealed in resin, the patient list, the redacted names, the initials of the missing campers, and then my own faintly etched at the bottom. I think of the pale hands in the hollows, of the rib lantern pulsing like a slow heart. Not lost, not found, not named. There's a mercy in secrecy. I've always believed knowledge is the only way forward. But last night I understood the weight of things left unopened. Some secrets keep you safe, not because they're kind, but because they're boundaries, walls built between what we can bear and what we can't. I look at the locked cabinet and wonder how many lost children are still waiting in the trees for someone to read their names aloud, and whether reading them would free them or erase them. I click the recorder off, but for a moment I still hear my voice on tape, slow and careful, as though it belongs to someone else. Outside, a wind moves through the city's oaks and pines. It doesn't whisper my name. Not yet.